Like if you watch Secret Invasion and him being all serious, I gotta do this by myself. And then we get into the Marvels and he's Black Girl Magic. What?
In my head, I'm like, this is not the man I just saw like have to fight green people.
Calling out all my nerds, freaks, and geeks. It's mob time.
Don't tune in cause it's showtime. Go ahead and call the gang up for the one time. Rap food rhyme, got them on the line. And my life's still great, I'm doing just fine. Hands up.
What's up, y'all, and welcome to the Blerd Mob, your hub for all things black and nerdy. I'm your host, Foop. Of all you flirkins and like-based powered individuals are listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other streaming service, make sure you hit that follow button so you can get updates from the mob. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit those bell notifications for future uploads. As promised, I brought back my Marvel brother in crime, McMillian, co-host of the Gurren Otaku Council podcast. Woo woo! Woo! So make sure you guys check out McMillian and his co-host Ace on their YouTube channel, Gurren Otaku Council podcast. You can find them on Facebook by the same name, their Instagram page at Gurren Otaku Council, and then their Twitter page at Gurren Otakus. So what's up, McMillian? How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm ready to talk about this movie.
Hey, they've been talking about this movie all week. The discourse on the socials has been insane, and I've been restraining myself from participating because I wanted to wait until we got into this review to let out all my thoughts. So we finally made it. So, as McMillian and I have alluded to, we are here to do a mob review on the Marvels. So, as you guys know, all of our mob reviews are spoiler filled. So if you haven't seen the Marvels or if you haven't finished it, pause this video, go finish the movie, come back and listen to the rest of the discussion.
Yep.
So the Marvels debuted November 10th, 2023. Or if you got to see it a couple days early, I did not see it a couple days early. I saw it on the 10th.
Saw it the night before, so.
I've been like kind of picking and choosing which movies I go see like the premiere for. Not like to give away my opinion already, but I probably would have saw this the day before. I think I had something going on. But I've kind of been, some of these Marvel movies be like, I'll just see it the day of or a day after. But so we got a couple hot takes. So going off of our local review, McMillian, we're going to start from the outside and we're just going to work our way into the depths of the movie. So starting with the first hot take, how did you feel about the movie overall?
I thought this was a pretty fun film, honestly. It's a pretty fun action movie. I don't think like, I'll say this, I don't think it's like anything special or anything like that, but I do think if you are going to see the film and you don't have like any qualms about like the characters and you're not letting any of the outside noise affect your opinion, you'll probably have a good time. It was an enjoyable popcorn movie like that I can really say.
I definitely agree. I had a lot of fun watching this movie, and I have some issues, and we'll get into that as we go further into the review, but I definitely had fun watching this movie. If anything, I could add this to like my list of comfort movies just to sit down if I just wanted to watch something that's entertaining, something quick, gets to the point. And definitely what McMillian said, like if you just, drown out all of the outside noise, all of the discourse that's been happening on social media surrounding this movie, this is a good movie. A fun, entertaining Marvel movie, which I would have to say we haven't gotten a lot of that since Phase 5 has started, excluding Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because I did really enjoy that. But some of these movies that we've been getting post Endgame, I would say these are one of the ones that I walked out feeling good. Even though I have issues, I walked out feeling good about this movie.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, my next hot take, still staying overall, how did you feel like it compared to the previous Phase 5 movies, and I think the only ones we've gotten at this point is Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Oh, is Shang-Chi and what you call it? The Eternals not Phase 5? Are they
That's
Phase 4?
Phase 4.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. So Guardians 5 and Ant-Man. I like this, in my personal opinion, a little bit better than Ant-Man. I don't think I've really gotten between like that for Marvel stuff, but like Ant-Man to me was a little bit of a letdown because they built up Kang so much, and then what we got
Got
what
his
we
ass
got with
whooped by
them,
some ants.
yeah, what we got with them, I don't think lived up to the expectation that like they had set in trailers or anything like that. And then for Guardians 5, I really enjoyed that. That was a really, I think that was basically a movie just for the Guardians themselves. It didn't feel like they were letting other stuff affect it. So I thought that was also like a really good one. So I guess in comparison to those two, I think this kind of fits somewhere in the middle of that. Like it wasn't anything I feel like you to write like home about or anything like that. Like it wasn't extremely well done, but also it did not like disappoint me to the level that like Ant-Man did, if that makes sense. Like it fit, I feel like, right between the dichotomy of the two.
No, that makes sense, and I agree. And let's slide into this right quick. So, The Marvels is one of the few MCU movies that have a under 2-hour runtime. Do you think you would have enjoyed it more if it was longer? Like, would you still put it between Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, or do you think that maybe having a longer runtime, being able to flesh out a bit more elements, would have pushed it forward?
So it's interesting because I think you fall into something there. So like I think if they did give it a little bit more time, I don't think they needed much more. But there were like certain parts of the movie I definitely felt like they would have benefited from a longer runtime. But I feel like what they did with the time that they had, they'd used it well, if that makes sense. Like I don't think they wasted a lot of it. So like, I don't know how much more would have helped, but I definitely think if they got a chance to really drive into some of the themes that they presented in the film, it could have been better. I just hope like, it's just, you always run into an issue is if when you give it more time, it's always like, oh, if we use this right, this could be really well. But also a lot of times you run into like bloated, like over bloating something or making it last too long. So it would be interesting, but I definitely think it could have helped in this case.
I think it could have helped. My biggest issue with this movie is that the pacing, some pieces of this movie felt a bit rushed.
Yeah.
And I think that's nailing I can't remember hitting the nail on the head with what you said about there were certain elements of the movie that you felt like, and I felt like could have had more time to really just sink in what was happening in that situation. And my biggest example is kind of Monica and Carol's whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, I had been looking forward to this movie because I was like, Monica finna cuss Carol out. Like, where have you been? Like, she grown in her job. She done got trapped in a Wix hex. She done came out with superpowers. And where was you the whole time?
Yeah.
And then I was expecting, like, some inner turmoil with the team, or maybe just fleshing out of, like, what is this dynamic going to be like in the future, given their past, what Carol has done, what Monica has been through, and then with the mother being gone.
Yeah.
It's like, what's gonna be that dynamic? And they wrote it off as Monica's just, trying to handle the situation. She's trying to get down to business, like focus. I'm gonna say my piece, but we can't really hammer in on it. But I feel like if they gave the movie a bit more time, we could have dived a bit more into that. And that's my biggest issue with the movie.
That I agree with you there. That definitely felt like there were definitely parts of their relationship where I was like, okay, I don't feel like we're how was it? There's the part where they do the whole mind meld thing.
Yes.
And and the whole thing with like Monica like being like, I don't want to relive this moment with her mom and stuff like that. And then also gives extra context to Carol had visited and found out that Monica's mother had
Mm-hmm.
cancer and stuff like that, which we didn't previously know. And that didn't really lead too much. Like it led to them having a conversation. But in my opinion, like this person who was basically like is her godmom
Mm-hmm.
was such a central part of like her life was gone and wasn't there for like one of the most trying times of her existence. And they just have a completely felt like to me was a slightly on edge conversation, but not like something I expected, which would have been like a full blown like where the fuck were you. And, like
Exactly. That's what I was expecting. I thought doing the mind meld thing would have like sparked the conversation, because then at this point, it's she didn't fully like abandon you. She did come back, but like you was blip.
mm-hmm.
And so, but then they just got up, like they took the things off. Okay, that's enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
Next, and it was just like whoa. It felt like a whole trauma dumping scene, because we went from what Carol did during her time, we got to Monica and this witch hex, then we honed in on this scene, and I was like, whoa, this is a lot of trauma dumping.
Yeah.
For one. And then they just got up and took the things off, and they was like, okay, where are we going next? And it was kind of like, whoa, we don't want to
explore this at
we
all.
don't want to unpack this a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to your point, even though I do have by timing issues, I do think they used the hour, what is it, like an hour and 47 minutes. I do think they used it well, like going from beginning to end. And I wanted to ask you about the timing thing, because we've seen some Marvel movies. Let's just talk about Ant-Man. Ant-Man was like 2 hours and something. And based on how that went, that movie didn't need 2 hours and something.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Thor: Love and Thunder. That movie ain't need 2 hours and something.
Yeah, not the way they was playing around.
Not the way they was playing around in that movie. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy used that 2 hours and something they had to the fullest potential. And I wish that the Marvels could have had that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have said I would think the same thing, because not only like with Monica Rambeau, but like if I get into Dar-Benn for a second, even their thing, like, so Dar-Benn is interesting because I like complicated villains, and she was somewhat of a complicated villain because it was like what she was doing was bad, but as a person watching, you could sympathize for it because like her people are on the brink of death,
Right.
and there's no clean, or at least at the time there was believed to be no clean way to like solve that situation. Like if I take my people to a different planet, we're invading a different planet, and that's a different thing. And what I'm doing now is stealing resources from a planet, which isn't much better, but like at least I'm not like totally just going to bring in my people into an all-out war situation. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like the way they did that, or the way they used her, was effective, but we didn't really get to explore her much or anything of that nature. Like she just was kind of like, oh, we understand your motivations, we understand like how you see Carol, but we really don't get to ever drill into that. And I really would, and I felt like if we got more time, that would have been something I would have liked to see, because I just felt like that, like her villainy, being a part of a warrior race that was kind of led like a cult, and then also being the fact that like her world is dying, that's a very interesting character. And I just feel like because we didn't get as much time, we didn't get to really drill into that.
I agree. I don't dislike Dar-Benn, but I also don't like her. I'm very neutral, because it's like I understand your reasons of doing this, but then at a certain point in the movie, I really just didn't care what you were doing. I think I agree exactly with you. I wish we had gotten a bit more depth with Dar-Benn. I wish I would have cared more. And I've been thinking about this for a couple days, that maybe the point wasn't Dar-Benn of this movie.
Yeah.
Like you have the antagonist there to cause the conflict, but let's not focus on the villain too much, and let's focus on the fact that we have the technology to open these portals into different multiverses and timelines, and then what happens when you put Kamala's bangles together. Like there was I could see the movie being like, here's a villain to cause some conflict, but we don't really care about them for real. Don't focus on them. Focus on what they're doing and the repercussions of that.
What it could lead to and stuff like that. And also, like, I mean, I think the movie itself is probably what the focus is. The Marvels, which is Kamala, Monica, and Carol, and their whole dynamic and how that, like, worked out, right? Like, that's technically the focus. But I just wish, I feel like if the movie was allocated more time, I would have liked to have seen or gotten to know Dar-Benn a little bit more, because that was such an interesting setup, two-way character, for it to kind of just, be her to be indifferent. Because I'm very much like you. Like, at first I was interested in her. I was like at least interested in her, and the fact of like what you're doing is interesting, why you're doing it is interesting, but you as a character, I'm here. Like, you're square in the middle. Like, I don't know. I don't.
And one thing I just thought about, maybe if we had honed in a bit more on Dar-Benn, maybe it would have hit harder on Carol's whole guilt thing.
Yeah.
Of like why she needs to fix this. Because like we go through the movie and everybody's like, Annihilator, the Annihilator's here. And I'm just like, okay. Like, having a name, the Annihilator, is supposed to like spark fear, and it's kind of like, girl, what the fuck did you just do? Like, why are they calling you that? But they didn't really, they showed why they called her that. But I just think that maybe if we got more depth into the feeling, and maybe if we just would have caused a bit more, this is why y'all really got beef. Oh, girl, you didn't really messed up.
Yeah, like I think that would have also just, besides improved Dar-Benn, that would have helped like the film stand up a bit more too, because as you said, Carol is supposed to be a hero. Like technically, I guess, like if there was a central main character, she is it. This is like her sequel to her previous film, and we don't ever really drill into that point that she technically caused like this whole world to collapse, right?
For real though, like I agree. Like it just, the information is there, but I don't think in the movie it really like locked in for me. Like, girl, you really like left these folks for dead. Like, it really didn't lock in. Like, we know it happened, but I don't know if it's just going back, I don't know if it was the timing or the fact that the villain just didn't get fleshed out more, that some of these points of like, girl, you really messed up, really just didn't hit home. Because it's very, if I was to compare it to something, I would compare it to how everybody looked at the Avengers in Civil War. We've went through the Avengers, Age of Ultron, and other things where the Avengers is like, at the end of it, we were like, woo, they saved the day. But then we get to Civil War, and it was like, y'all, all these people died.
Yeah.
Many children were sacrificed for this mission. Like, and then in Civil War, it like really sunk in, and I just don't think it really sunk into this movie to like, girl, you really just left these folks for dead.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the Marvels themselves, the big focus of the movie. How did you feel about Kamala, Monica, and Carol as individuals, and how did you feel about them as a team?
Kamala Khan, perfect. I think I can't remember her name, the actress.
I got it right here. Iman Vellani.
She kills it every time. And I think she did a phenomenal job in the film for this, because she played, I think, a character who not only has to make her own way as a hero, but like someone who's like, oh, I'm finally meeting my inspiration, and not only like seeing what inspires me, but also realizing, oh, this is a person at the same time. And I think she played that very well with the short amount of time she was given. And then also to somewhat be the glue of the team, where she could tell that Monica and Carol were at odds, but also, trying to be like that piece. I think she did great at that. So Miss Marvel, hats off, always great. Monica, I think, did a really good job as well. Like her actress did a good job balancing that. I just wish the problem is, and we have already talked about like Monica and Carol's whole like dichotomy in relationship. I just don't think was given enough time to like us really to get
She
into
was
it.
supposed to chew Carol
As
in.
yeah,
like you left me for years, and the only time you come back, sure, come back, fight Thanos, great. And then like not even after that, nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I thought like the way they had Monica kind of set up was like, I understand I had these new abilities, but really first and foremost, I'm a scientist and then stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool because like that for her, that makes sense because it's like I'm already technically, I'm not disillusioned by heroes because I had a hero in my family and they kind of let me down already, you know? So like she wouldn't be all super hyped technically to be a hero in the first place. So I thought that was a really good way to have her. And then Carol herself having to not only balance the fact that she let down someone that looked up to her already, and then now has this new kid to like kind of that she realized that she's like somewhat in a mentorish spot, but also like I still have to do this job and try and repair the relationship with my goddaughter. I thought I thought they had her in a good spot as well, because especially considering like I think a big complaint from the original Captain Marvel is that they didn't have her emote a lot. Like she didn't have a lot of people were saying like she didn't have a lot of emotion in that movie. And I think in this one they really allowed her to have more, like show who Carol is as a character a lot more, in my opinion. So individually, I think they all did well.
I agree. Just to start with Miss Marvel, that's a funny kid, and I really enjoyed like the quips and everything, and like the transition from being the fangirl to let me chill out for a minute and just say let me be a hero, and I also like between her and Carol, it went into that that don't meet your heroes type thing.
Yeah.
Because when they went to the planet with the squirrels on it, and Carol's like in Dar-Benn's, sucking up all the air, and they're trying to save as many of the squirrels as they can, and Kamala still having like this perception or being in the perception, like Captain Marvel says everybody, like we're not going to leave until everybody gets back, and it comes down to the decision where Carol's like, yo, we got to go. We got to save who we can and we got to leave. And that's going to your thing where Kamala vision of Captain Marvel starts to crack, where she starts seeing those flaws, and it getting to that point, and then she flips it to when they end up on that singing planet, and Carol's all locked in of like, I have to fix this, I have to make sure that Dar-Benn doesn't get away, and Kamala makes the decision. She was like, nah, we finna get out of here.
Yeah.
We finna go. And she presses the button for them to jump out and end up on the other planet. And when they finally have that conversation of like, I apologize for treating you like a kid, and Kamala's like, I'm sorry for not like seeing you as a person and seeing you as this big Captain Marvel and not realizing that you are also a person and you have flaws and you also have guilt and all these other emotions like built inside of you. So I really like that. And then I love Teyana Paris. And I love Monica. Like her, they fully locked in on like the natural black superhero being in like some mess like this. Because you would think, because I guess some of the tropes are like, here's the funny black character that's sitting in and making all the jokes and stuff, but her presence through this whole situation felt very natural. Like when they were on the singing planet and Kamala's still fangirling, she's like, Captain, my Captain. Monica's like, girl.
like get off her tip. Like, what the fuck?
Like, nah, for real. And then I forgot what part, when they were doing their not monologue, what is it called, their training montage, and Kamala said something, she was like, nah baby, that's okay, we ain't gotta do that. Like I love those one-liners because they felt so natural. Like I felt myself being like, Kamala, chill out, and here goes Monica, like, Kamala, chill out, and just thank you. So I really love that. And you touched on a big hit too, is that I like that out of the group, she wasn't the one like, I'm a hero first and this later. She was like, nah, I'm a scientist first, and fortunately or unfortunately, I just have some powers on the back end.
Yeah.
And you can tell that she doesn't really hone those powers, because it at the beginning of the movie, when they had their big fight scene, it was, she was doing what she could, but then when it came out to like, yo, you gotta fly, and it was kind of like, you didn't learn how to fly yet?
Yeah.
So it's like, she hasn't been using, like, this movie may have been when she was using her powers to like the utmost potential.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably like after Wanda, and I could see it like after WandaVision, like you not wanting to use your powers because of where they came from,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm going to stick to the scientist gig, and this is what I like to do. And it also could be, and this could have been another thing, had they fleshed out a bit more of the conflict between Monica and Carol, it could have been possible that she don't really like to use these powers because of who it reminds her of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That
So,
could also be a thing.
So, but we'll never know. And then Carol, Brie Larson, I still like her as Captain Marvel, despite all of the hate. And I agree with you. I definitely feel like she showed a bit more emotion in this movie. Like, she felt a bit more human in this movie than she did in the first Captain Marvel movie. And I don't dislike the first Captain Marvel movie, but just thinking back, it was kind of like, first half, I'm on a mission, I don't take no shit. Second half, I'm angry, I don't take no shit.
No shit, yeah.
And then in this movie, you get to see her go through like the awkwardness of being reunited with your goddaughter after these years, the awkwardness of being seen as like a mentor or being put on a pedestal by this kid you've never met before. And then the pressure of like everything that's going on and you trying to fix it and everything. You could really, like, I guess, relate at that point.
Yeah, I thought that was like how they showed it to me is like, because when you think about it, the only thing you've seen Carol do so far in the movies is deal with the like first finding out that she even like had powers in the first film, and like with that her being like a under Kree control, finding out what that all is, and then like having to fight the Skrull, stuff like that, and then realizing, oh shit, I've like technically been like brainwashed or stuff like that, and also taken from my home. Like, let me go basically deal with that at the end, and then Thanos, and that's it. That's the two things you get of her. And so in this film, I really felt like they really allowed her to show off like who more so like who Carol is as a person, and it's flawed, and because like even like I was saying, like how Kamala realized it, and even like her saying like the reason I didn't come back is because I felt like I couldn't until I fixed what I started and stuff like that. So yeah, I just felt like that was really a really good way, I think, to just flesh out the character more.
And I definitely liked at the end, and I've talked to somebody who has a bit of a nitpick about this, when she finally comes back to Earth and she moves into the Rambo house. But I felt like it was kind of fitting, given the fact of she has been in space in all these years, and like you just said, she felt like she couldn't come back until she fixed all these problems.
Yeah.
But then in the movie, she kind of figured out what Monica told her. She was like, didn't care like what you had going on in space. I don't care, about your guilt or what you felt like. I just needed my godmom.
Yeah.
So her coming down to Earth, even though, there's still more things that she has to deal with, besides Dar-Benn and all of this emotional turn, you just coming back and realizing that, you can come home. We can fix this stuff, as it goes by. And I felt like that was really good.
Yeah, no, I actually enjoyed it. One, because I think, as you said, like that point of we can fix things as they come up. Like never everything doesn't have to be solved immediately, or like you don't have to ignore your home just because you have problems somewhere else, right? I thought that was good. But another reason I kind of like the fact that she came back and moved into the Rambo house is because like she had been avoiding it for so many years and stuff like that, and then like finally getting the resolution or realization that like I have a place to return to, and I can go back no matter what's going on. I thought that was good. And then the second half of the fact that like Monica but at this point is gone, and someone kind of she couldn't be there for her while she would while Monica was going through everything, but she can at least try and take care of her home now that she's like not she doesn't know what's happening with her, but
Or
hopefully one day she'll be back, and then this place will still be here. She'll still have a home to come to. I thought like that to me was a really nice way to end it.
I definitely agree. Like, you're gone, but when you come back, just know I'll be here. Whether you know it or not, I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
I was watching, because you know how social media is, you know how people are, how they started posting clips of the movie. And it got to the scene where they were on the Sword spaceship, and they was like, "Let the Flurkins eat you. We are evacuating."
Yeah.
And it got to when Brie Larson was chasing that cat around. Because I know you watched this series too. Do you feel like Carol in the MCU is much like Adora coded, like a She-Ra Princess Power coded?
I think I saw you tweet that, and I was like, when I think back to Adora, yeah, I think they are very similar characters.
And I think I saw it more just because making the circles that they allowed her to feel a bit more emotion. Like you having all this power, but you're also human as well. Yeah. And that's where I started seeing the similarities, and I kind of started feeling like the same type of arc between her and Adora. And I was like, okay, I really like this. Whether you knew this or not, I like what you're doing here. But I definitely like the team, their dynamic. I like their dynamic from the trailer. When I saw the trailer, I was like, oh yeah, I really like this dynamic. And I enjoyed it in the movie. It's like, even with the age differences and stuff, like I didn't feel like, oh, this doesn't work well, or I don't know how long this is gonna last. Like when they were doing their whole training montage and how everybody, they're doing all the training and stuff, I was like, yeah. And that just added to the fact that I felt like this was a fun movie.
Yeah, that I really liked the training montage scene and how like them developing as a team, because it just really kind of solidified like how I thought of stuff, like how Monica seems to be the smart, Carol the muscle, and then like Miss Marvel like was the glue or like the jokester in a way, who kind of brought like her own like spin to stuff. Like I really liked how they played off of each other in that, especially in that scene. I thought it worked very well, and then how they continued to work with each other just kept evolving. It was just really nice.
And I love that everybody kind of had like their when you're in a team, like everybody's on the same page, but you got that one person that's not on the same page, or those two people. I love that they had multiple of that. I think my favorite scene of that was when Kamala was like, "Hey, I looked at Dar-Benn's map," and then that's when they do the mind meld. Before they do the mind meld, and so Monica and Kara are like, "Great, we can just figure out where she is, and we can map it out, and we can go there." So then they look at Kamala, and she was like, "What? You saw the map. Where does it go?" And she was like, "The stars."
The stars.
It was just in space. Yeah, I saw it on the star map. Okay, where did it go? And it was like, it was funny because Monica and Carol have some perception of there are different planets and all of that. So to them, this is like common language, and they completely forget that Kamala don't know nothing about this shit. And she was like, "The stars." And then the singing planet. I feel like this is my other nitpick about the movie. I feel like if that singing planet shit had went on maybe a couple seconds more, I wasn't gonna like this movie.
I agree. I think the way they used it, or what they did with it, was perfect, because they're getting this thing apart, and then the prince shows up, and then like Carol explains like, "Oh yeah, I'm betrothed to this person," and stuff like that. And then like when he comes over to Kamala and Monica, he like starts singing to them, and Carol like cuts it off real quick, like, "No, we need this," and And then he starts speaking normal, and they're like, "Wait, he could just talk." He's like, "Yeah, he's bilingual." I was like, I died.
That jump was so funny because they was just singing, and then Carol and them, they was like, "Okay, I think I'm gonna get down with this." So then they do this fancy dress and all this other stuff, and then she was, wait, chill out. Now I need you for real. He was like, "Okay, let's get started." What? But I honestly feel like I like that they continue to like hit on that multiple planets have like different languages, different cultures, way of doing things. But I just feel like that singing planet was funny for a minute, and then after a while I was like, ain't no way this whole sequence is just going to be just singing.
Yeah. If they had played, like I said, I think they cut it off at the best time, and they did it in the best way, because I that was a really funny joke to me, and then they cut it right when it needed to be cut.
Exactly, because I was like, if they let this go on, because then he starts singing, Carol starts singing, and I was like, yo, if this whole conversation is just singing, I'm not sure how long I'm gonna last in this movie.
Start looking at your watch like, huh?
Like a musical? Like, come on. But yeah, that was a good scene too, because then it started going into, you actually start to see them like synchronizing with their powers. And like the switch, because at first that beginning fight scene where they're trying to figure out what everything's going on, it felt really chaotic.
Yeah,
like all the bouncing around, and they're just trying to survive, because we don't know what's going on. But every time I pop up somewhere, somebody's trying to kill me, so let me fight.
Yeah.
Then we get to the singing planet, and it's the same thing, but it's less chaotic, because now we control when the switching happens. We have plays. We got a playbook now of when we switch and how we do it. Hold on, let me rewind for a minute. How you feel about Kamala in that scarf? That whole scene just popped in my head. She was like, "What I fight with? Use your scarf." And the first thing, whack a pow.
It's so interesting to me, because I was just like, I why? Like, I was in my head, I was like, we just got it was so odd to me, because in my head I'm like, they just practiced fighting with their powers. They should technically know, like, be able to. She should be fine to use them, but hey. They wanted to keep the bangle away from Dar-Benn, and I was like, okay. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but I just felt like that whole scarf thing felt like. I just really feel like,
why is the first thing that comes in your head is to be Jamie Foxx from Django? He was like, "How I fight? Use your scarf." Oh, whack a pow, girl.
No practice required. Just.
I was like, now she got a whip.
Instant understanding. Oh my god.
But like, going back to the power switching, that final fight with Dar-Benn, oh, they was in her ass.
Yes, yeah.
And you cannot tell me they was in her ass. I remember, because I saw it with two other my friends, Antoine and King. We was sitting there watching that fight. When they had punched Dar-Benn into that wall, we was like, oh, like audibly in the theater. We was like, oh. And then when it fell and it stabbed her, we was like, oh. I was like, y'all tore her ass up. And that scene was so good. Visually, it was good as well. Like the constant switching, it never felt like the effects fell off. It never felt like we're lacking on the fight choreography, or we're going to make this fight less than what it is because of visual effects limits. No, the way they was boop, 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 boop. I was like, this is good shit right here.
Yeah, that was a great sequence. Fun, very good visually, and very fun. I think, like, to just like sit down and enjoy. So
they was tearing her ass up. And then and this is where I feel like, just going back to the Dar-Benn thing, is that I didn't know how it was going to end. Like, when they had finally pinned her down, and they were just like, we're going to help. Like, we know how to fix the problem. Like, we figure out that Carol can just go back to the Kree planet and relight the whatever thing that she broke.
The sun. Yeah.
The sun. And, But without that real villain development, you don't know. At that point, I didn't know whether she was gonna like agree or if she was gonna be on some bullshit. So and in a sense, you could see it as a good thing because you don't know which way she's gonna go in this situation. But then you also don't have any like thoughts of like what she's gonna do. I thought they just beat her ass and it was gonna be done.
Yeah, for a second, that's how I was saying too. But like in that moment when I was thinking, so little comics knowledge, spoiler maybe potentially. I don't know if Dar-Benn is this person in the comics, but in the comics, like last year, I think, or maybe earlier this year, it was discovered that Carol has a half Kree sister, and at first I thought like, oh, could Dar-Benn, like when I was watching the film, I was like wondering, I was like, is this that same character? Because I'm not a big Captain Marvel fan, but I just know that. Just like that's how my head, because I think either TikTok or something point that out to me. So I thought maybe Dar-Benn was that character, and I figured this was gonna be like potentially, if they kept her around, this was gonna lead to something. So I was like, oh, maybe she's gonna like just be like cool with it because like they want to use this character later, considering that this could be a potential relative. And then
no, she was back on that bull. We tried to help her out. She went back to the bullshit, stole the bangle, and blew her ass to smithereens.
Which I thought that was also a really well done sequence, because like the way she like inched towards the hammer and then even like got the jump on Kamala and like did all that. I was like,
when she put that hammer down on Kamala's face, I was like, let that baby go. That was a really good scene. I'm glad that you brought that up. That was a really good scene when she flipped the script and she just kept you up. Boom. I was like, you're giving good female villain energy right here.
Yeah.
Like, take no prisoners. Like, you give me that goddamn bangle, I'm gonna blow this little kid head up. And I was like, whoa. I thought this was a classic party. But like, that whole ending fight sequence, I thought was done very well.
Yeah.
Everybody, they dragged it out. And not dragged it out and it's like, y'all just fighting just to fight. Like, somebody should be done by now. But everybody was like holding their own. Like, if I have to give Dar-Benn anything, she was holding her own between the three of them, even though she didn't know where they was gonna pop up, who was gonna pop up, how, what they were gonna be using when they pop up. She was holding her own, and that hammer and that bangle.
Yeah, no, she did. That's what I say. She did a really good job, and even with the scene, like with the Kamala thing, that was really well done, because the whole time it felt tense, because I was like, granted, I was like, I don't think they're gonna kill off Kamala, like in the sense of like, past movie knowledge, just Marvel stuff. I was like, they're not most likely not gonna do it, but it did feel tense. That situation felt tense.
It felt like that final second, like, y'all got to do something. If it was that y'all got to do something right now, type, like, out of the whole movie, like, through all those other battles, this was the one that was like, y'all, all cards on the table. Like, y'all got to do something right now, or everybody's screwed at this point.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't like about this, and this kind of kills the movie for me, is that when Monica and Carol had that conversation, and it was like, oh, the star is not dead, it's dying. Carol, you can restart it with your powers. I was like, so we just went through this 2-hour movie for what reason?
I just felt like, yes, because didn't they find out Didn't they find out when they were doing the mind meld of what she actually did on that Kree planet, or was it they saw what she did on that Kree planet, but they don't know the effects of what she did until
I think it was they didn't know they didn't know the effects. I think until like they were having a conversation on the thing, and so like on their way to the final fight with Dar-Benn, I think is when Carol and Monica had that conversation. Like, oh, you could restart the thing, but they had to stop her. And so that's why when she was like, down for the count, when she was pinned, they had told her like, hey, we know what we can do. Just, all you got to do is trust us. Like, we do not want like this to go any further than it already has, because we know the solution. My only thing is like, it kind of, that being able to do that undersells everything else in the movie. Cause like, if you knew that, if that was all she needed to do was fly into the sun, heat up for a second, and then bounce, it just kind of kills everything. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I agree. the only thing I could think of without like going into like the makings of a movie, because we know why they did it for the makings of the movie. But if I had to give an excuse, one, how many more planets was Dar-Benn going to suck resources from by the time they get there and Carol powers up the sun? Two, who was to say that if Carol went in and powered up the sun, she might actually switch places with Monica and Kamala, and then they get fried to smithereens because she flying through the middle of the sun.
I mean, there are some logistical things there. I'm just saying, like, in the grand scheme of things, when you think about the movie for more than 5 minutes, you're just like, so the whole issue could have been solved, like, technically within 5 minutes of the film, because technically, to even like your point with the whole switching thing, you gotta switch. All they gotta do is switch once, and then their powers stay active after. And from the way they showed it, Carol just flew directly into that sun. We don't know how long
that was after. But that was.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, you know, when they were talking about like the logistics of switching, you switch one time, and then you can use your powers freely as long as you don't stop using them. And so, like, technically, she could have switched once, gone to the sun, powered it up. Look, Dar-Benn, we saved your world. Can you stop fucking around?
Can you chill out?
Like,
give them their goddamn airbag.
Yeah. So that's just like the one like out, like, if you like nitpick I kind of have with like the thing is like technically the problem could have been solved in 5 minutes. But other than that, I think like movie wise, knowing, you know, making of a movie and story and all that, why it had to happen, I still think like overall this was a good way to do the film. Even like the last bit with like Monica sacrificing herself to close the portal, because in my head I'm like, I'm really surprised no one realized, because I immediately when they were talking about it, I'm like, Monica is not gonna be able to come back.
That's what I was saying. She was like, I'm gonna go in the inside and close it. You're gonna go where?
Yeah. Like I was like, and then when Carol was like, now Monica's closing, now come back, she was like, I can't. I was like, are you really surprised by that? Like, she said she was going on the inside. Like, it'd be different.
Like, did it not just click? Like, y'all all in hip hip hooray, we saved the day mode. She's going to go sacrifice herself. I just, even though it was that part, I did really like that Carol went after her, and I really like where they saved it to the very last moment and like trapped her in space. Like that moment where she's lost in space, and it's kind of like there's still that unresolved conflict, because I could see it that if Monica hadn't sacrificed herself, that they would have went down to Earth and had a genuine conversation about everything that happened.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think,
but now everything is still up in the air, and then Monica's gone. They don't know where she at.
Yeah.
So then that just adds another layer. Like, we're talking about Carol's guilt. Like, yeah, your guilt has been resolved with the Dar-Benn thing, but
as far as your actual family, though, there's still that unresolved stuff right there. And I thought, like I said, I thought they did a really good job with that, with the whole, like, you can come home and make sure Monica, whatever happens with her, like, you don't know what the situation is, but whenever she makes it back, she has a home to come home to, and you'll finally be there, you know?
Because she could have easily stayed in space. She could have been like, well, guess I'm still staying out in space.
Yeah, I was like trying to figure out a way to get to Monica and stuff like that, but to choose to, well, I don't know like what Carol will be doing. I'm assuming she'd be helping Saber or whatever, but like to choose to be like, okay, I'm gonna make sure that whenever Monica gets back, whenever that is, that she has a home to come back to, and that I'm here to do it. Granted, she probably will still be a hero to some capacity to Earth or even space, but like at least at the end of the day, you know, whenever she gets done with whatever job she has, she'll be at the Rainbow House on Earth or helping Kamala or something like that. So she'll be there for when Monica gets back. I thought that was a nice way to wrap everything up.
I agree. I get, and we're getting close to the end credit scenes, but like I get why they pushed Monica over there. But I was like, ain't no way we finally get to see Monica again after WandaVision. Y'all trapped this girl in another timeline.
I felt very odd about that, because I was like, I really like this character, and I don't get to see a lot of her.
We couldn't get another movie, another episode with Monica. Y'all just want to kick her out of 616. Like, come on.
I was like, we don't got that many black heroes right now. You ain't established a lot of them. Can we keep like?
Can we keep like one? Damn.
Like I know we got Sam, and I know he Captain America now, but I would also like there ain't no black female representation, and you just kicked out the one we had. So
God, and she looked perfect in that costume. Hair was sitting like this is epitome black MCU female superhero, and y'all did what? I was like, at that moment, I was like, what's that? The boys meme when Homelander is sitting with that straight face in that movie theater. I was like, ain't no way.
Can't believe what I'm looking at right now.
I can't believe y'all did this shit. But so let's go ahead and head into these end credit scenes. But I do have one more thing. I have a question for you. So we have at this point, depending on how Captain America 4 goes, but if we want to assume, we got 2 Avengers in Louisiana right now.
Yeah.
Carol is down there, and Sam, if Sam, squats in Louisiana. With him being Captain America. I thought we talked about on Carol's end how they wrapped it up, but do you think they're setting up like the next set of the Avengers by, dropping at least the 2 captains in the same area?
Potentially. I don't think that like that's a far-fetched idea to do that. I mean, because technically, like, if we're building the roster right now, that was like you have the 2 leaders, and that definitely could be the whole thing, like with how like Iron Man and Cap were technically like the leaders of the Avengers, but they were always like kind of opposed. I could definitely see Sam and Carol being at odds with each other.
Can you know?
For certain things, I feel like their commanding styles will probably be different because Sam's whole thing is a little bit more understanding because he is, he's a veteran. He was like also like a veteran psychologist type thing when he came back, right? He helped people. So I could feel him being like a little bit more at least understanding and like that type of sense, and Carol being a lot more brute force because that's technically how she was this movie. So I could at least see them butting heads on that, like being the kind of like opposed leadership that like, but when they come together, they're like the best thing since sliced bread.
Okay, as far as like leadership styles, yes, but I don't see personalities clashing. Like Captain America and Iron Man were like personality clashing. Like that one scene in the Avengers, it was kind of like, I'm better than you. No, I'm better than you. No, I'm better than you. No, I'm better. I have 4 degrees. I stopped World War II. What do you got? So, now I just thought it was interesting. Like when I walked out the theater, I was like, now we got 2 Avengers in the same place. An assumption, because I don't know where they actually gonna put Sam at now that he's Captain America. He could just, squatting down.
It's very interesting because like that whole, what was it, like the second Captain America movie, when Cap was technically, well, I mean, he was an Avenger, but they was also treating him like an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they sent him on missions for S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff like that. And oddly enough, the S.H.I.E.L.D. leadership, does S.H.I.E.L.D. still exist?
No.
Okay. I was about to say like the S.H.I.E.L.D. leadership is gone because
S.H.I.E.L.D. was gone. Sword. Didn't Sword exist for a minute and then they stopped Sword?
I don't know if Sword is still a thing because the person who was
that
leading
dude took it over.
Yeah, that and then he got arrested.
Well, they not good people. If Sword still exists, they're not good people.
It's so interesting because when we get to the after credit scene, I'm gonna tell you about a conversation I had with my friend at the beginning because I thought Saber was Sword at first, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And they said Saber.
Where and now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like I said Sword sometime throughout this episode, and I meant Saber, but it's like it's so many acronyms. And where is Sword?
Yeah, so I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Sam and how that'll play out. But at least I do think that is an interesting thing to at least do acknowledge. Like if Sam is still in Louisiana with his family, there are 2 people in the same there's 2 Avengers in the same vicinity who could potentially restart the team from there.
I can see it like this. This is my theory. Captain America 4, things go down with Red Hulk, whatever they got going on up in there. And Nick Fury pops up and he was like, we got some bigger problems. We need the Avengers back. And he was like, I don't even know where these folks at. How am I supposed to gather all these people? And Sam was like, don't worry about it. It's one down the street.
Yeah. I can see that. I do have a question for you before we do get into it, like right quick.
What's up?
I went to go see this movie with Aaron. For those who watch Gurren Otaku and are over here, Aaron has been on the podcast, but he also personally knows for Food. And he was very upset with how Nick Fury was acting in this movie. He felt like they like someone wrote a script and was just like, didn't consider Nick Fury as a person.
Uh-huh.
And I even was like, okay, it really did feel like they kind of was just like Samuel Jackson, do whatever the fuck you want. So how did you feel about that? Because after this is supposed to be after Secret Invasion, right? Like technically. And I just felt like this was a very callous person. Like the way he was acting was so carefree compared to like the shit that he just went through.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is kind of odd. Like, I don't know how to feel about it.
It gave old age. It gave like you got pre-Endgame Nick Fury where he's all hard and it's like, y'all gotta be the Avengers, y'all gotta do this. Like he's being the parent at this point. Like y'all gotta pull this shit together. And with him meeting Kamala and like the new age of heroes, is giving granddad like, girl, chill out. Like, black girl magic.
I thought that it was just so fun. Like, so when he pointed, like Aaron got so upset with it, but I was like, that is interesting because I just wasn't like in my head. I'm like, Nick Fury to me, at least in this film, was like, look, man, I'm pushing retirement age at this point.
Right,
like, whatever.
For real. Like he just had to deal with all these scrolls. I'll sit back and giggle too and let everybody. Let the cats eat you. Like I'll sit back too. The way they didn't handle my ass in Secret Invasion. But I can see it if like a demeanor change with like Nick Fury in this movie. It seemed like he was a bit more laid back. But I just think it's the fact that he's getting older. Like as we're moving through these Marvel movies, we're phasing a lot of characters out. And it's like, Nick Fury ain't gonna be around forever. And then how do you adapt? Like with you starting the first set of Avengers and you've seen everybody grow, you've seen people die, you've been through all these events, and now it's time to bring in the new age of heroes. What kind of attitude do you have being older and knowing more? Do you have to be that? Do you have to be that press about certain situations, or do you have the wisdom and knowledge to be like some of this stuff just works out itself?
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it because I did think that was at least interesting to see have a character go through so much and then be so kind of like carefree in a potentially reality world ending type of thing. It was just like interesting.
I could see him getting a bit more serious once we, dive more into this multiverse business, this Kang business, then leading all the way up to like Dr. Doom. I could see him like being like, okay, time to get up, Nick.
Yeah.
They playing. But I feel like this movie, with it being fun, and I think he had a lot of trust in like Monica and Carol too, to like, no, I know they're gonna handle business.
Yeah.
Like with the Avengers, it was like, we don't know what Thor gonna do. Thor just think he a god and he might cooperate, but he might just go do whatever he want to. Tony is Tony. Cap's righteous, like he's trying to hold together all these different personalities because we got some real stuff going on. And I just feel like maybe with this team, one, it's less people. Two, he really trusts Monica, and then he knows what Carol's about because they already
together,
been through.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like he may have been a bit more laid back just because he know these girls are going to handle their business.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I didn't think about it from that perspective, but so I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. That's a good point, though.
No, I definitely see it. Like if you watch Secret Invasion and him being all serious, I gotta do this by myself, and then we get into the Marvels and he's black girl magic. What?
In my head, I'm like, this is not the man I just saw like have to fight green people and shit.
Right.
Like, so I just thought that was funny, but yeah.
I feel you. So let's get into these end credit scenes. So we got 2 end credit scenes coming out of the Marvels. If you did not wait to the end of the movie, how is this your first day here?
Yeah.
But the first end credit scene, we got I would say homage to Iron Man 1. Kamala is bringing together the Young Avengers. The first Young Avenger that she visits is Haley Steinfeld's Kate Bishop. How did you feel about that scene?
First, I thought that was great. And I would have waited to foreshadow it too earlier in the film when she first saw like the data pad with her information on it. When she was like, "Where'd you get one of those? Like, what is that?" I'm like, I thought that was hilarious. And then for it to actually have a ramification by the end of the movie, great. But I loved it, and and it's interesting. So I'll bring another comic book thing. So if you're unaware, Kamala in the comics leads a group of young heroes called the Champions. And so for her to be technically the MCU's potential leader for the Young Avengers, I thought was really cool because it's like bridging an old team and a new team and kind of like closing the gap, at least in like that way. So I thought that was pretty cool in itself. And the scene was fun. I thought that was a very fun scene because she popped up. And in my head, I'm like, I wonder, will Mini Hawkeye take this well, considering the fact that the last person who did this was an assassin. So, like, Kamala, you might get shot. I don't know.
You might get a little pew pews.
I don't know if this was the smartest idea, but I thought that was great.
No, I love that scene for multiple reasons. One, I've been complaining forever about how they've been introducing all of these contenders for the Young Avengers and hadn't really been doing anything with them. Like, we've gotten Kate Bishop, Patriot, Wiccan, Speed, Ironheart, and Hulk's son. And I was just like, are you guys just introducing these people for S&Gs, or are we really going to get like Young Avengers out of this? And that end credit scene warmed my heart because I was like, finally,
right? Yeah.
Finally, some of this stuff is starting to come full circle.
Yeah, it was interesting because like the thing with the films and stuff like that, I was like, we're getting a mixture of Young Avengers and Champions roster right now, and I was like, I wonder which one they're gonna go for because like people are like, for instance, with not talking MCU, but like Miles Morales is now it's out and he's very popular with everybody. So I was like. And Tom has already said, like, at some point he wants to stop playing Spider-Man. So I'm like, are we getting these Champions characters because they eventually are going to have Miles and want to bring that into the fold or something like that? And then I was like, are we also getting Young Avengers because like Disney's like, hey, Marvel's printing cash right now, so are we potentially moving into like 2 young teams or something like that? That's what I was wondering. But it is nice to actually see them start to move, at least push stuff forward, because before it was just kind of like, oh, look at these the young characters that everybody likes are now coming into play, but we don't got nothing for them to do yet. So like,
here's the thing, what do I do with it? I don't know.
So it is just nice to see that they're actually at least doing something. I am interested to see like if we're gonna get a film or a series, because I would love to see like a Young Avengers type show. Just like kind of like Young Justice type
I agree.
thing.
I would love a series that builds them out as a team, and then when we get to like the big Avengers movie, then we integrate them into those big movies.
Yeah,
but I would definitely love a series. My only nitpick with this end credit scene is the fact that they mentioned Cassie Lang.
Dude, it's so funny. I did not know. I knew Scott had a daughter because I'm not that big of an Ant-Man fan, but like I knew that he had a kid. I just never knew that there was his kid had like apparently had its own, like had their own suit and did stuff. I was like, I know. Granted, I'm not like I just started like reading more comic books kind of like last year or whatever. So I was just like. That just completely caught me off guard. I was like, I thought this was just for that one movie. I didn't know this was a whole character.
She didn't even do nothing in that movie. That's the part that pisses me off. I'm mad. She didn't do shit in that movie. For her to be one of the top 2 contenders, for you to name her government name in this end credit scene.
She didn't really do anything in the Ant-Man movie, but I guess out of the people you could name, because Speed and Wiccan technically don't exist right now.
Sure. Sure, but you ain't
And
want to
then
name
Elijah.
You ain't want to get. You just ain't want to get You ain't want to say Ironheart. You could have just said Dominique
I was-
Thorne. You ain't even have to call her Ironheart. We just said let's go get the Spark Girl.
Yeah, Riri.
Cassie Lang.
Riri would have been a better, I feel like, name to drop. But like, because Elijah, as far as we know, I don't even know if Patriot has it could be assumed he has abilities because his granddad is a super soldier, but like they didn't show him do anything. So I'm like,
Right.
don't elite Cassie. They probably did Cassie because like out of recent memory, like she was technically in the start of phase 5. So like,
I will give you that. I'll give you that just because of the fact that we ain't really seen everybody else suit up yet. Some people ain't of age. We ain't really sure. Ironheart hasn't got her debut series yet. So from that end,
I would have to assume that's why.
I understand. We don't know where America Chavez at.
Yeah.
I'll give you all of that. It was just I don't like Cassie Lang. I want her off the team.
Yeah, we haven't
I
seen
want
her
her
do
off
anything.
the team. I haven't seen her do anything. Now, whether it's a series or a movie, whoever writes that series, you have to give her something, because if she gets in that series or gets in that movie, acts the same way she did in Ant-Man, I want her off.
Yeah.
Immediately.
They definitely gotta build her out more, because out of the Young Avengers roster right now, I guess besides Elijah, she ain't looking too hot, because at least like even though we haven't seen Hulk's son do anything, he's a Hulk. So like
we know what you can do.
Yeah, so
you ain't even gotta show us.
There ain't really no question as far as you concerned. So like
and Billy and Tommy not of age yet, but we already know what kind of deal they gonna have your mother's Scarlet Witch. Like I think we can assume that y'all packing something.
Yeah, so
it was just her, and I was really like, Cassie Lang, for real.
Mm-hmm.
They just gonna have to give her something more. I'm sorry. Otherwise, I want her off the squad.
She said, get her off the team.
Get her off the team. But everybody else, even the people who they are saying could be potentials, I'm fine with everybody else except her.
I get that. I completely understand.
But I was definitely excited to see that end credit scene, just because it's like, okay, we finally about to take these younger heroes we've been introducing this whole time and actually do something with them. But your point about Eli, they may give him something in Captain America 4.
Yeah, I mean that is my biggest assumption, is that he'll potentially help Sam out in some way or something. So I would like to see it. A lot of people that know more than me, that like there's some people I follow on Twitter that do like talk comic books, and there's some Elijah fans, and I've kind of like am interested to see the character more. So I'm interested to see that. I don't know what they're gonna do with Hulk's son, considering I don't know what the plans are for the Hulk family right now.
So it looks, what I have been hearing is that Red Hulk is supposed to appear in Captain America 4. So I don't know if that's going to be the next time all of the Hulk show up, if they all show up in this Captain America movie just because of that, or what.
Yeah, I just have no frame of reference for them, because it's just like the Hulk we have is so different from the Hulk in the comic books. I really can't. I was surprised he had a kid, because I'm just like, that's from World War Hulk, and I know you're not about to do that movie. Because
we had kind of talked about that a long time ago, that when they did Thor Ragnarok, they pulled some of the elements from World War Hulk. So it's like, if they do a World War Hulk, what is it going to be about?
Like, yeah, because I'm just saying, like, technically the people that started the Illuminati, the Illuminati is technically on a different place, and they're dead, and and you have to piss off Hulk enough for him to achieve World Breaker, and I'm sorry, I just don't think this one got it. I don't like, they have not shown anywhere near that capability for this Hulk, so I'm just like, I don't know how they gonna do that. I just have no frame of reference for them. Like the way they've done Hulk so far in this series and stuff is just so different. I can't.
Yeah, I agree. I have no idea what they're gonna do with Hulk, and now they've introduced She-Hulk, so it's like, are we even gonna see OG Hulk now that we have She-Hulk and his son?
Yeah. I just need them to fix that boy hairline if he coming.
Oh, like for real. Like y'all ain't got no barbers on Sakar. Like everybody hairline gotta be pushed to the back.
That was wild. That was wild.
And he just standing there at the family barbecue, and I was like, "You came to the right family barbecue, because if you came to mine, we was
oh, that boy would have been roasted. Oh my god,
you would have been done for. You would have had to go eat your meal in the bathroom, probably on the way to the barbershop."
Not the bathroom.
Cause babe, like what character design? It's like y'all hate these characters so much.
Man,
here's a mini Hulk. What's different about him? Oh, his hairline's pushed to the back.
His hairline fucked up.
Oh man. Well, let's get into this last end credit scene, because I feel like nobody was expecting this at all. So just to walk through this scene, Monica wakes up in a medical room.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently somebody found her on the other side of the jump point, and she wakes up, and it's her mother. It's Maria Rambeau, right?
Maria or Mariah. I don't know. I can't remember exactly.
I think it's Maria. But there's a version of Maria Rambeau sitting there, and she's just freaking out like, "Mom, oh my God, I'm glad you made it." And me, I'm like, "Oh, baby, that's not your mammy."
Yeah.
But she did that like really good, like that. You don't know what happened. You waking up and the first thing you see is your mom. And I was like, you played that like really well of like, but I was like, come on now, you got to catch up. You got to see that something ain't right. And then Maria Rambeau was looking like, okay, this girl must be like off her rocker. And I was like, I'm gonna be patient with you for a minute, but I ain't your mammy.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out she's binary. And then we get somebody walking in the room, and it's the goddamn beast.
Motherfucking beast.
And I was like, whoa. So this makes 2. I'm going to say 2 at this point. We know there's more coming based on what we've been hearing about Deadpool 3. But at this point, there's been 2 X-Men from the Fox universe showing up in the MCU movie. So I want to know how you felt about this scene. And just to go a bit deeper, what do you think this means for the multiverse saga? And what does this mean for the X-Men?
You asked the right person to be on this podcast. So I think we had texted slightly about this, but I walked away from the theater being like, I don't care what I rate this movie. Like a 5.5, but then after credit scene, that's a 10. That's a goddamn 10. Because I was nowhere in my frame of reference that I think that was about to happen. So there's 2 things. So I'm interested. So besides the X-Men, the fact that Maria is binary is very interesting. So for those that don't know, Carol technically has this advanced state where she becomes like pure cosmic energy, and they call that binary. Now in the comics, they're actually 2 separate beings. Like the binary actually exists outside of like Captain Marvel, but originally they were like the same person. So I was like, I don't know if they're just saying it because like that's their version of Captain Marvel and that's just a name she chose, or if that is legitimately like a cosmic being that is standing in front of her and not actually her, like Mariah Rambeau at all. But
I want to assume, just based off what they did in Multiverse of Madness, that it might be one and the same. And just on this timeline in this universe, she takes on binary instead of Captain Marvel, like the other Maria Rambeau did in Multiverse of Madness.
Okay, so that's like at least something I just wanted to point out, just in case people did not know. I just thought that was very interesting. As far as I'm not sure what this could mean for the multiverse saga. So like the way I was thinking about it as an X-Men fan, X-Men's whole thing is oppression. They are a allegory for basically any oppressed group within the real world is basically what the X-Men are supposed to be for Marvel, because obviously they're superpowered people born with their powers and they activate around the age of puberty. Some of them actually technically activate at birth, depending on like what the mutation is. But they're usually like an oppressed group. But for Hank to be, I don't know where they were, so I can't necessarily say this, but for Beast to be some highly respected doctor, and for Professor X to also be like in charge, so from what it sounded like, I can only assume somewhat in charge of whatever facility they were in, because Hank was like, based on your readings, we can tell you're from a different universe and you seem fine, but whenever you get, your bearings, Charles would like to speak to you. And I'm like, so mutants in this world, I'm assuming, are at least
they seem settled.
They seem settled and safe. So at least I can say for this is that the X-Men, wherever, like, granted, I don't know how we're going to get them in the regular universe, but at least for the time being, if we ever go back to the one that Monica's in, they seem to be okay. Now how that will affect, like, what happens to, say, I don't know if, like, that universe will have an incursion and then the X-Men gotta jump over to 616 and then they'd be like, oh shit, we don't like these people, get them the fuck up out of here. That could be a thing. I don't know how they're gonna do it. I'm very interested as an X-Men fan. That's like probably the most interesting thing to me. But it's just interesting because I'm just like, I know that Kevin Feige, everybody basically is like, this is the most popular team Marvel got besides like Fantastic Four and shit. So obviously they're gonna want them in the movie. It's just like, how do we do it? And so right now that's kind of like where my head's at. Maybe like something happens with this universe, considering how in the comics, when Secret Invasion happened, two universes collided, and then some people survived it and ended up in the main universe. So that's kind of like where my head's at least right now, is that like maybe the X-Men jump to 616.
I'm on the same lines with you as far as Secret War, but I walk with me, talk with me, because this is my theory. So Secret War, the way that it starts is that you got these two universes and they're about to incurge. Like, ain't no stopping the incursion. Like, everybody's preparing for the incursion. What if this universe that Monica's on is the universe that's supposed to incurge with 616 that kicks off Secret Wars? So then that does go to your point that bringing in Dr. Doom, he makes that big planet or whatever. But then at the end of it, both universes are dead at this point, and then they get a new one. Yeah. So now, because Marvel has said that they plan on introducing the X-Men after Secret Wars. So if we get to the end of Secret Wars and 616 is done and this other universe is done and this new one is here, then that's where it's like the X-Men have jumped over inside of this new main timeline. That's my theory.
I mean, that's basically kind of along the lines of what I was thinking. Like, Secret Wars happens and the X-Men mutants survive like the incursion, and then they end up on the regular like 616 Earth. And because there are people that still recollect what happened before the Secret War thing, they're like, we do not like these people, these stuff like that, and that causes like some stuff there, because there's no way you're bringing in the X-Men and the Avengers exist, and you're not probably adapting Avengers versus X-Men in some form or fashion. They did Civil War, and like the more popular version of Civil War was X-Men versus Avengers. So I just, I just feel like that's probably going to come along the line somewhere. I like it? But
if they do that, I think they might skip over the whole oppression part. I know it's very integral to their story and how the X-Men get started. But I am going to find it a bit weird if we get to this new universe and everybody remembers what happens with Secret Invasion and there's Skrulls, millions of Skrulls living on this earth, and y'all mad about the X-Men. I'm going to be pissed. Cause what?
So, but and this is always the thing with like but I think that's because that's what like the whole bigotry thing is supposed to be, is like it's fear is like you're afraid of something that you technically should be afraid of in the first place, because the whole thing like with Marvel in itself is that like I mean, besides the Skrull, you got Thor walking around, and who could at any point in time technically destroy a continent because he's the god of thunder. Yeah, like,
level.
And then you over here worried about a man made of goop. I'm just gonna use Blob as an example because like he's one of the like most harmless people. But I think that's the whole thing. I granted it is like a little bit unbelievable, but that's the whole thing with the X-Men in the first place. There are people born with powers in a world that already has so many other things. Why are they so persecuted? Is kind of always their thing. So I don't think I think they could pull it off in the film, but I do, to your point, there are definitely going to be people that or be like, well, why the fuck is that the case? But
Exactly. To your point, I would be curious to see how they pull it off. Because at this point, like you said, we're going to be introducing another team. So there's going to be Avengers, Young Avengers, Fantastic Four, and X-Men all living side by side with each other. With the introduction of Blade, I've heard some talks about Midnight Suns. So like we got all these people running around. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's so the thing, and this is I wish so many people won't focus on, like, I get why we're focused on that whole aspect of like Marvel movies and the selling point, but like the interesting thing to me is Marvel is slowly becoming what the comics are. And
Okay,
as we
yep.
get there, that means it's going to get a lot more convoluted and stuff like that, which means it's going to eventually, I don't know necessarily say it's going to like lose its popularity, but it's going to become a lot more niche, I think, because if you're rocking with it, then you're going to stay rocking with it. But the thing is, the reason why comics are so hard to get into because of how many things exist all congruently. And if we start putting everybody in here, it's like
it's gonna
get the same level. So it's like, you know, what will happen then? That's the more interesting conversation to me, at least, is like what will happen when when the movies become so big that they're just as intertwined as the comics can be, and then you have a problem really focusing on like, well, what's really going on?
I'm gonna say this.
We're approaching that, so
it's gonna piss some people off. People already pissed now, but it's gonna start pissing some people off. And I don't know. Maybe after the multiverse saga, we stop trying to do these big team up type arcs, and maybe it's just the X-Men have their own type of arc that we're following. The Avengers have their own type of arc that we're following. Fantastic Four, and some people might cross over just because we're in the same vicinity, or you know, this mission that we're on is in your area. But I think it's going to be harder to try to include everybody in one big arc as we continue introducing people and building out these teams.
Yeah,
because after this, ain't no way you finna tell me that Kevin Feige has a plan in his head for the next villain that the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Avengers, Young Avengers, Midnight Suns, and everybody else finna go to as one is going to go against.
That's gonna be it's gonna be a big thing. I do like the idea of hopefully, like, as time progresses, like you get like, this is the movies that you need for the Avengers, or this is the stuff you need for the Avengers, the stuff you need for X-Men, this is stuff you need for whatever other team they got. I think that'd be a little bit easier to do. And then if they have like a big, you know, bonanza movie thing where they like all these people got to come together, it's not like every character, it's like select few, because that's how it kind of happens in the comics. Like there are certain X-Men who have been on the Avengers, certain Avengers who have been on Midnight Sun, stuff like that. Like, I mean, that's the beauty kind of comic books, is at any point in time you could get those crossovers. And if the movies kind of follow like a little bit more streamlined version of that, I think that'd be kind of where I think that would be a good place to kind of head, at least with a multiverse saga. Because in my opinion, what Marvel is doing right now by having all their IPs in one house is really trying to figure out how to make this all work. And I hope that they do, because as a fan of the films and a fan of the comics, I would love to see how they continually adapt these stories and kind of simple, because what Marvel's great at doing, at least in my opinion, is taking the stuff from the comics and simplifying it for general audiences. Now, granted, they fuck up sometimes, but bar none, at least they're still doing, in my opinion, a good job of bringing it to general audiences.
I agree. And I think the best thing they could do at this point, given the fact that they're about to make all the changes to the Disney Plus shows, is that maybe we, you know, cut back on the amount of movies and really flesh out these teams and these characters through the shows. They said they want to start doing multi-season Disney Plus shows.
Yeah, and I think that's a smart idea.
I think that would be a perfect way to flesh out these teams and these conflicts on a lower medium than making a big blockbuster movie every time we want to, you know, put out some new information. Maybe the big blockbuster movie is the climax of the situation.
Yeah, and hopefully, like, I mean, granted, that I know their problem there is that they're trying to make it so that you don't got to watch the Disney Plus shows to really understand the movies. But I think at some point, I don't know. I think there's gonna be some overlap that they're gonna have to really like to have like, oh, hey, previously on before their movies or something, because it's gonna get to a point where they're gonna need it. It's impossible. I feel like for it not to.
I understand them wanting to be like, hey, you don't have to get Disney Plus to watch this movie. But I am telling y'all that some of this stuff you might not want to sit through a 2-hour and 30-minute movie because it's about to be so much. Maybe a season of 6-8 episodes, multiple seasons of that way of you just getting information weekly might be the best way to go.
Potentially.
It might be the best way. Either y'all gonna be at the movies every 3 months, or every so often we get a new season or something that's building up to a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I get what they're trying to do because everybody's been complaining about superhero fatigue and the MCU's not making sense, and why do I have to watch all these shows when I just want to go see the movie? Like, I get it, but like we talked about this on the Loki review. They're trying to evolve, and with evolution, you have to find new mediums to present information.
Yeah, and even evolution and also within that, growth is not a comfortable thing. There are going to be points where you mess up, as well as it's not going to be the cleanest situation. But my thing is, I'll just take it back to what I said earlier. I think at this point, if you're in the Marvel stuff, really at this point, like if you were there for the beginning and you're here still now, you're most likely here for the ride. It's going to upset you at some points. I'm welcome to being a comic book fan, people. That's all I really got to say. They're going to mess up, but the hope is that eventually they'll figure it out and we'll get to another point where where people bought out theaters to go see Endgame. Like we're at that point again. Eventually, I'm pretty sure.
We'll get there. Just stick with it. Just have faith. But that was all I had for the Marvels. Did you have anything else you want to discuss, McMillian?
Well, I don't know if we touched on like the Monica, if we'll see Monica again. I'll just say quickly with that, I don't know unless we're really about to get a series in a different universe, which is I hope at some point we get, because I feel like with all this multiverse stuff, if you're not at least about to show me something in a different universe, then what are we really doing? So that would be my hope, because I feel like Monica is definitely a character interesting enough to carry a series. And then also the fact that like the X-Men exists over there and you got her mom being binary and all that. I feel like that'd be a very interesting thing to pull off. So that's all I'll say about that.
I agree. And also, to keep my thing short, I think it would make sense. If we're leading up to Secret Wars, I think we should get a movie or series or something about what people are doing on this other universe that's about to encourage with 616. So we just, so we can feel the tension or the impact, or we can sympathize with both sides of what you guys are going to lose when this happens. Yeah. Instead of it being one-sided. I agree. So we'll see what they do. But let's go ahead and shut this down. So one, I want to thank you, McMillian, for joining me on another episode of the Blerd Mob podcast. There's been a lot of Marvel content dropping this month, so I had to bring you in to make sure we get these conversations in and discuss it. So thank you. Two, I want to thank everybody who's been listening or watching, whether this is your first time or your 50th time listening. The watches, listens, interactions are greatly appreciated. Now, before we get into our socials, McMillian, is there anything you would like to share with the audience before we close out?
Appreciate you guys for checking them out. If you are also a fan of ours or Gurren Otaku, we really do appreciate all the stuff that you guys do for us over there as well. That's all I just want to say.
All right. And make sure you guys check out the description, whether you're listening to this on the audio or the visual platforms. And make sure you check out the links to Gurren Otaku Council podcast. It'll be their YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. So make sure you guys check that out in the description. And if you want to find more of the Blerd Mob podcast content, make sure you follow us on our socials. We're on Facebook and TikTok at the Blerd Mob Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at the Blerd Mob Pod, and you can find us on Twitter, X, whatever your preference is, at the Blerd Mob. Make sure you check out our affiliate links in the description. We have the affiliate link to Entertainment Earth. Get you some Funkos, some statues, or just check it out. See if you find something you like. If you don't want to buy anything, make sure you check out our Ko-fi link that is strictly donations. That comes straight to us. We use that for equipment, software, and everything that we use to give you guys this episode. And one last time, make sure you like this video, leave a comment, hit that subscribe button, and hit those bell notifications for future uploads. And with that being said, this is the mob checking out. Peace. Would he have stood on business still and be like, you know what, I'm not that guy?
Yeah. That would have been interesting to see if they given the chance, because I definitely was interested. Like, it's interesting because to me, I think like in the moment.